Alright, so final screencast lesson for this unit. We are still on 1E day 2, or still on 1E, we're on day 2 now, so final day. So learning goals. I can convert between real world units of measure. I can give my answers as a combination of units. I can understand when whole numbers must be used when determining an answer. And I can justify my answer. Alright, so steps to solving. These problems are a little more advanced. The same steps as day 1 though. A lot of these problems we're going to need to kind of round numbers or at least take them into consideration in order for the problems to make sense, or the answers I should say. Okay, and justifying the use of this rounding, or your explanation for why you would need to do that, is going to help in your justification of the answers. Alright, so first example. Total of 147 people attend a field trip to the John Deere factory in Moline, Illinois for a tour. You can only have 9 people in the tour at once, and so now using this kind of capacity, what's the minimum number of tour groups that can be formed? Now something to keep in mind here is, well, first obviously we're going to determine the ratio, but notice this sentence here. What is the minimum number? Okay, the fact that it doesn't ask you for an exact number, it asks you for a minimum number or maximum, depending on the problem, should tell you right away that it's an inequality. It is not an equation, so you need to have an inequality symbol there. And we'll get to that at the end. So determine the ratio. We know that one tour can have 9 people. Set up the proportion just like before. So if you have one tour that can equal 9 people, and we're trying to find out how many tours for 147 people, we set it up like this. Notice again, we've got people and people. Solve for the variable. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get 9x equals 147, divide both sides by that, and then any remainder will mean that you need at least one additional tour to account for the extra people, because when you divide 147 by 9, 9 goes into 14 once, and then you've got 57, so then that's going to be 9 goes into 57 6 times, but then you have this remainder of 3. So we have 16 groups, but then we have 3 people left over. If you put it in your calculator, you'd get like 16 and then some, decimal. So what we do is, well, we can't have 16 tours, which means we need one more at the very least. So we say that we could have x is greater than or equal to 17 groups. So that's important. This number over here should never be a decimal. So we'll say never a decimal with these types of problems. Okay? So always, if you have anything left over, you automatically round up. So even if it was just 1, if it was 16.1 or 16.04, whatever, depending on the problem, you would still round up to the next number if it's anything above 16. Alright, second example. So in an attempt to celebrate the year, Mr. Vale wants to have a cookout for his 145 students. He knows that you can buy hamburger buns in packages of 8, and Mr. Vale, and he already had 29 left over from the last cookout. So we want to find out how many packages he needs to buy. Subtract the number of buns you already have. So we had 29. We need 145 because we have 145 students. So we subtract the 29. That gives us 116. So now we know how many buns we actually need. So we're going to set up a proportion. One package. So this is one package. Has 8 buns. And this is how many people we need buns for. So that makes sense, right? Shouldn't put that on top. We don't need 116 packages of buns. And then it's just a matter of setting it up and solving for the variable. So 8 times x. So remember you guys call it a butterfly, I guess. So 8 times x equals 116. Divide both sides by 8. Okay, and what happens is, again, like with the last problem, we have 116 divided by 8. That goes in once, 36, and then that goes in 4 times, leaving us with a remainder of 4, but we can't buy a package of 4 buns because we're buying them in packages of 8. So we would need to buy 15 packages in order to get the total number of buns that we need. So yeah, we're going to have some left over, but that's okay because we cannot buy a partial package. All right, so that is it for this unit. Remember, the only difference between this one and the previous video is that there was a little bit of rounding we had to do in this. And if you noticed, it was always rounding up. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we finish things up and move ahead and get ready for the test. One last thing. May not hurt to watch some of these lessons a second time. Review's coming. Do it, and the best way to approach it is to treat it like an actual test when you attempt it, meaning no notes, no anything. Use your notes afterwards when you go back and do some of the problems you struggled with, but at least it'll give you an idea as to what you need to focus on.